According to Storygraph, where I record my reading, my average progress before DNFing a book was 36% and average time with the book was 10 days. So you cannot really say that I didn't try to give them a fair chance, right? I DNF'd 8 books in 2023, which is overall a quite nice ratio, so let's talk about them. They might not be the right book for me, or I might not have picked them up at the right time. If these are some of your favorites, I'm happy for you and I'm open to start a discussion on why. Who knows, maybe I will give them a second chance. If you're interested in my favorite books of 2023, I have a video coming up all about my top 5 reads of this year. Starting off, I know this is a popular one, but I couldn't read further than around 30% of Twisted Games. And honestly, it put me off from picking up any other books in the Twisted series, or just from the author in general. Don't get me wrong, I love a good forbidden love story, some bodyguard romance, but this book failed to deliver on both the characters and the plotline. It's not that I lost interest after a while, it's that I never had the interest to begin with. The characters are rather two-dimensional, there was no tension, the plot progressed in the most boring way possible, and I cannot even remember if I have made it to the spicy scenes or not, but if I did, they were entirely forgettable. Also, there was a multiple year time jump in it, according to my notes. How am I supposed to believe that the tension holds up when we as readers don't really see what happened? I have no idea. This book was just not for me, and I don't think the other books in the series would be any different, but feel free to convince me otherwise. With the previous book, I wasn't vibing and I felt bored of it. With I Want to Die but I Also Want to Eat Tteokbokki, I was truly upset. The book is a recording of the therapy sessions between a young Korean woman who is working as a social media director, if I'm correct, and her therapist. And some of the lines from her therapist just made me want to throw this book out of the window. She got told by her therapist on like page 8 after like 5 minutes of talking that she's codependent, and later the therapist says that you are fine now just the way you are, which in my opinion is not the best thing to say to someone who gathered the bravery to work with a mental health expert. I managed to read 56 pages of it, which is around like 30% of the book, but I was shocked how bad the therapist was and I did not wish to continue with the book. I will probably unhaul my physical copy of it at some point. Next on the DNF list is a fictional story, a mystery plot set in historical Korea, The Forest of Stolen Girls. Neither the mystery element nor the 14th century setting were there really. At times, the main character's behavior directly contradicted itself, like she worried about her disguise being revealed, and then within like 10 pages, she proceeded to tell her real identity to every person she met, without contemplating if she could trust them. That made very little sense if you ask me. The book tried to bring some substance with the family relationship depictions, like between sisters that did not grow up together, or between father and daughter, but it just wasn't enough to hold my interest. The murder mystery plot failed to raise the stakes, and the sole function of the side characters were just to appear and info dump from time to time. All in all, I realized I was quite bored of the story and did not care to finish it, so I put it down at around 50%. If there is one book on this list which I think came at the wrong time, and I might try to pick it up later, it is The Bridge Kingdom. Everybody mentions it as one of the OG enemies to lovers stories with political intrigue and a strong female protagonist, everything I normally love in my fantasy books. I got to like 16% of it, which was 50 something pages, and I just wasn't impressed. I think my issue was that I read it too close to The Wrath and the Dawn and similar stories, so it felt very repetitive when it came to the dynamics and character motivations. The world building was nothing unique, and the descriptions were not immersive enough for my taste at that point in time. But who knows, maybe once I take a break from such stories and want to get back into them later, this might do the job. I was on a hunt for lesser known cozy witchy reads and stumbled upon The House Witch on Kindle Unlimited over the summer. It was a low-stakes, whimsical tale featuring a royal cook who is secretly a witch and his animal companion, Kraken the kitten. Bonus points for the animal companion, but minus points for literally everything else. The characters, the plot, the word, the flow of the story, was a little bit too all over the place for my taste and did not manage to capture my attention as a reader. I gave up at like 12% and switched to something else because this book did not provide the fascinating characters and the courtly intrigue that The Blurred has promised. It is a shame because apparently it is the first part of a trilogy, but to be honest, I don't think I will try to pick it up again. Maybe one day when I'm desperate and I have run out of all the other cozy witchy stories. I have learned my lesson this year and I won't listen to BookTok anymore when it comes to contemporary romance books that are hyped there. Even though The Right Move seemed so interesting based on the descriptions. It features the fake dating trope with an NBA star player and plenty of sizzling tension. Okay, the thing is, I watch NBA and I have some favorite players that I follow on social media for years now. So when I tell you the lingo connected to the NBA and the way that the players are depicted here, oh my god, I couldn't take it seriously. My fiance is also an NBA fan and I read some of the lines to him and we were just giggling and cringing together. Outside of that, the characters were okay. The story didn't go so deep in terms of the topics it discusses, so it passed the time. The conflict of why they wouldn't just give in to their desires to be together was flimsy and quite frankly boring after a while, and coupling that with the fictional NBA depictions, I just couldn't take it anymore. I DNF'd it around 50%, which is around 200 pages or so, but I'm grateful for all the laughs I got out of it. I wouldn't say that I'm a dark romance girly, but sometimes I venture out of my reading comfort zone, and that's what I did with the Book of Azrael. This one is intense. The main character is a mercenary, and she swore servitude after her master saved her sister's life. And the male love interest has the casual title, The Word Ender, and they are on opposing sides. This one was too long and too intense for my taste. I just couldn't get through it, so I DNF'd it around 35%, which is also around 200 pages out of the 570 something. But if you're looking for a dark fantasy story where the enemies are truly enemies before they have the chance to become lovers, and you enjoy reading about redemption, the complexities of loyalty, and the blurred line between good and evil, this might be a really nice read for you. I remember I was playing Baldur's Gate 3 while reading it, and I kept imagining the main character Diana as Karlach, and it fits so well, I don't know why. And last but not least, I mentioned this book in my last reading wrap-up. I got bamboozled with yet another contemporary romance book that got hype on BookTok. It is a second chance romance between a sunshine wedding organizer and a grumpy florist, so of course I had to check it out. Forget-Me-Not tried to give the characters quirky details, but it ended up more on the cringy side in my opinion. Like the protagonist, Alma's personality is loving donuts, having a mom who married like 12 times, and not bringing her car to checkups. Time and time again, I realized that Talia Hibbert is the queen of writing contemporary romance characters that have depth, but also unique characteristics, and everyone else just pales in comparison, I swear. I think this was the longest DNF on this list. I was at 61% when I realized I could be reading other books that have better tension, better chemistry, and more interesting characters, so I put this one down. So these were all of my DNFs. Some I expected to like, some were a little bit further away from what I usually read, therefore it's not surprising that they ended up on this list. I'm curious, what were the books that you ended up not finishing? Let me know in the comments below. Like I said, next up I will talk about my top 5 books of 2023, so see you in that video. Until then, take care!